Welcome to the Veterans Club podcast. This is Jeffrey Rosales with Joe Palacios and Lakeisha Mosley. My family, like so many others, was separated by unfair immigration laws. My mom came to the United States in 1998 at the age of 18 in search of a better life. For the next 15 years, she and my father worked to build their American dream in Florida. They started their own business and bought a house where I grew up with my sister and our dog, Spot. In 2013, an immigration officer knocked on our door. He told my mom to go back to Mexico where she was born because she was undocumented. I was 4 years old. My mom explained to me and my sister that undocumented is what you call a person who doesn't have the papers that allow people from one country to live in another country. I called them miracle papers. The officer said my mom had to report to the immigration officer the next day. President Barack Obama's administration gave my mom permission to stay in the United States as long as she obeyed the laws and checked with the immigration office every 2 years. But when the next president was elected, he changed the immigration laws. During a routine visit, an immigration officer told my mom she had to go back to Mexico and she had to report to their office every week until her deportation date. The new president did not care that my dad fought for this country as a United States Marine, or that my mom was a military wife. No matter how many times my parents asked the government if she could stay, she was told she had to leave. My mom couldn't apply to be a U.S. citizen because when she entered this country, she signed a paper at the border. She didn't understand any English, or that the paper said she was breaking a federal law. So when a person signs a paper, they're forced to leave the country. Some may have to wait up to 10 years before they can apply for a legal way to enter America. But other people like my mom are told they can never enter this country again. My parents spoke to different lawyers and went to many court hearings. They also asked lawmakers in our state for help. No one could stop her deportation. On August 3rd, 2018, my mom was forced to return to Mexico. Heartbroken, I knew I had to do something. I was 8 years old when I decided to write a letter to President Donald Trump about how his administration separated my military family instead of protecting it. The video of my message to the president was played on major television news channels, and because of all the media attention, I was invited to do another reading a letter to President Trump to be shown at the 2020 Democratic National Convention where President Biden was running for president. Congressman Darren Soto, Florida, officially honored my sister and me as distinguished daughters of Florida. Lawyers had heard my message and offered to help reunite my family. I soon discovered that there was power in my words and in my voice, and I vowed to use my voice until my mom was back with us. I went to live with her in Mexico for a year and a half so she wouldn't be alone, but I returned to Florida to be with my dad and sister after the COVID-19 pandemic began. Being separate from her was very painful for all of us. Our hearts broke every time she missed birthdays, holidays, special days like my sister's high school graduation, and difficult moments like the passing of our dog, Spot. I would often dream of the day my mom came home. Inspired by John Lewis's book, March, I wrote this book to continue to share our story, and I didn't stop until someone finally listened. And my dream of her return became real. On May 8th, 2021, my mom was allowed to temporarily reunite with us in the United States. We are so grateful to President Joe Biden for making this possible. Now, as my parents try to figure out a way for my mom to stay permanently, we are working to heal our family. And that book, ladies and gentlemen, was written by Estela Juarez, the daughter of a United States Marine and someone who we have here as a guest today. Estela Juarez and Temo, welcome to the Veterans Club.
Hi.
Thank you.
So, Temo, I first want to talk about your service and your background. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what was that like?
Well, thanks again for taking the time to let us speak your story. We appreciate your time, really. And me growing up, I grew up in Mexico until I was a teenager, 14 years old. And we already had a green card and everything. So I came in 14, did high school 3 years, and I started getting interested in the military service. I wanted to be a cop, actually, sheriff's department. I had a neighbor and where I was living, and I liked the way he was living, the way he was set up. So I wanted to be a cop. And then, obviously, I lost focus with once I started learning the ranking file and how everything works. And so I did two deployments with the Marine Corps, the Mediterranean, and then I got my second deployment. I got lucky. I did the UNITAS, which is the South American Mediterranean
Oh wow.
pony show. So I really enjoyed that one. Um, and then I finished and on 99, got out, went into the National Guard, and then I did 4 years in National Guard. In my last 3 months of my contract, I got stop loss and deployed to Iraq.
Wow.
The first stage, we were the first group we got staged in Jordan. Then after 3 months, we went in right into downtown Iraq. We were in charge of the convention center. That was our perimeter security. We screened all the media, international, national. We screened all the brass from every country in the world, and it was kind of okay being there, but it's also we had a big target. Now we were stationary now. With everybody when they came in, especially when the ambassador came in, when the generals came in, everything was long hours, really tight, a lot of preparation for them. By the time they were showing up and give their media press, and I did a year in Iraq, and came back, and I got out in 2003.
Wow, that is some experiences that you have, man. I didn't know that you went the National Guard route. I think that's awesome. You know, a lot of Marines end up going differently, and I think that says a lot. And it sounds like you were handling VIPs, and I didn't know you got stop loss in Iraq. That is something new to
Yep.
me, and I've something experienced. But I know veterans have gone through a lot of that, and that says a lot. So when you after the service, you ended up in Florida, right?
Yes, that was my second hometown actually since when I was 14. And I was still wanted to stay in the reserves, but I wanted to be in Florida. So they didn't have nothing for me as an infantryman in Florida. They have a truck company. I was already A5, and they said, "No, there's no way we're gonna retrain you as A5." So that's why I went to National Guard in the infantry. That's the
Gotcha.
only reason.
Gotcha. And then so after so in the reserves, what else did you go to school? Did you go back to school? Did you work at I'm sure in the civilian sector? What'd you do there?
I started working on construction, and I developed, my business. Which actually that's where I'm at. I'm on the side of a container right now, so I block out all the noise so you guys can hear me better.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. So you and I talked about. I said,
Yeah,
Demo, your mission is to make sure there's no noise. Let's
yeah,
limit that as much as possible. And how fitting for a fellow Marine to be in a container box, right? Because a lot of us
yeah.
know about that. So I think that's pretty awesome. So I want to transition a little bit and getting over to Estela. But before I do that, man, I want to say I want to ask you a question because I want the audience to understand this. Is your influence the military give you a certain leadership principles, and I'm sure you have carried that with your family here. Because look at your future here, who's inspiring the future generations. Talk a little bit about how important military service is and what it taught you in regards to leadership.
Obviously, I already had a certain developed level of leadership from my family. My family is kind of conservative as far as the morals kind of sense, and they always thought, work hard, listen before you speak, what other people have to say. And hopefully, once I get into the Marine Corps, you start learning, the second level of what you need to do so you can transfer to your personal life and business and how to manage your troops, how to lead them. Uh, that was the next level, that they don't teach you anywhere else, but the military, once you get to college, maybe universities, how to be a leader, you get a kind of a sense of why, what is a leadership, what is a leader.
And that's you, man. Because I mean, you got your I'm gonna call her your lieutenant here, but your future here. Someone here who has inspiring us, and I'm really just impressed, man, because I do feel, and especially the veterans here, is military veterans just, they do so much, right? Like yourself, you have a business, you are a leader in your community, but not only that, you're a leader in your family, man. And so those principles that you have learned, I think it's really, really impressive. So um, I want to quick talk about now Estela. So Estela, you are currently living in Florida, correct? You're in high school?
Yeah, I'm in my first year of high school.
Perfect. Okay, and you are in the debate team?
hmm
Okay. That is phenomenal, and I think you need to continue with that. More to follow on that. So let's real quick get into the Estela before um, the situation that happened here. So let me just give everybody a little bit of context, right? So Estela here, her mom, she's the daughter of a military family. And her mom, like I said before, was in the process of getting separated 20 years later after she came to this country. And Estela here, through her courage and her dad's leadership, wrote a book, right? So Estela, tell us real quick what was going through your mind during that time and that incident. I know you were 8, but I'd love for the audience to at least have a better understanding.
Well, for me, it was really unfathomable to think about the fact that my family could be separated in an instant. So the first thing I jumped to doing was when I saw how hard my family was working to write letters to legislators and congressmen, was I decided to, join them in their fight. And I underestimated the power of my voice and the power of writing and reading, because after I got all of that attention from the media, that's when I realized that this is something that I can continue on to make a change and help my family.
So when you decided to get involved, at what point was your mom already separated, or was she still here living in America?
She was still here. I think it was a year or so, or a couple months before she was going to get deported. And like I said, it was unfathomable for me as a child to think that this could happen so quickly. So that's when I really decided that I was going to immerse myself.
And and like I said, I think that says a lot about you and your courage and your father's leadership here. And I'm really sorry for what you're going through. A lot of us don't ever want to see any family get separated, period, especially a military family. And for today, we look forward to having a great conversation. So I want to bring up real quick one of our co-hosts here, if she has any questions on the most military service or anything about what we just talked about. Lakeisha?
Thank you, Jeffrey. Yes, when it comes to your experiences, Estela, and also Timo, it's totally different. I look at my young children, how they were military brats. They had to persevere. They didn't have any buy-in, when I traveled in different locations. So, Estela, I want to know how it impacted you, just being the military brat that you are. How were you able to persevere, and how were you able to guide your existence with your family, dealing with being in the military and how they're moving forward?
Well, my father was already out of active duty when I was born, but I definitely believe that I got my work ethic and my discipline from him. Like I said, like my father is the most disciplined man I know. So I strongly believe that I wouldn't be here where I am right now if I didn't have that mindset. And it was really hard navigating my life, with the thought at the back of my mind that my family could be separated at any time. And for me, it was really hard to know that my dad contributed so much to this country and to think that in that case it really didn't matter.
Wow, that was amazing. Wow. Thank you for
So,
sharing that.
so work ethic is phenomenal. And thank you, Lakeisha. I really appreciate you sharing that. And then Mo, I want to go back to you here. Is what has your daughter taught you in this process, right? I mean, she mentioned your work ethic, but I want to know, like, especially the youth, right? They're so important here. They're so pivotal, and just for somebody so young to just say, you know what, I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to speak out on behalf of my family. You're on mute. Can't hear you, brother. Hey, brother, we can't hear you. So if you want to just real quick, let me remove you and bring you back up in a second. I can't hear you. All right, how about now? Nope, we still can't hear you. If you want to go back out and come back in. So while we do that, let's bring up Joe. Joe, do you have any questions here for Estela? You're on mute, brother.
So, Estelle, are you still in Florida now? Right? Is that
Yeah.
where you're at now? And you're still going to school there?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's cool. How as you were growing up not growing up, when you were going through this actual process, what I heard was like the perception that you went through. How did you kind of like find the ability to move forward, even though you had this perception that my dad has sacrificed so much, and how is this going through for my family? Like, what were some of the things that kept giving you hope and kept pushing you forward during those trials?
Well, I would say it was the words of encouragement that I got from other people and learning about other children in my situation and thinking about how much of an impact we can make if we come together as a community and speak out against these injustices. And so for me, really, my motivation from this came from seeing all of those other military families that were being separated and those undocumented children being affected by the situation.
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment because I actually wrote it in our private chat, but I really do believe that your family story, your dad's and your family story, is actually, I think, the norm when it comes to immigrant stories in our country, and not the exception. I think we just need to highlight more of these stories of people coming here, and I think that's regardless of whether you've arrived in our country documented or undocumented. This is the norm. Come here, find a way to succeed. I mean, your dad and mom started a business, like participated in the community. He served the country. Like that is, I really do believe that there's a norm and we need to highlight that more often. So I want to thank you for coming out here and sharing your story with us, and keep telling your story as much as you can, because I think we need to get this out a lot more. And I think people will have a different perspective on this topic, this very important topic of immigration. So thank you again.
I mean,
Yeah,
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, Joe, that's a great point. Because if just for everybody knows, immigrants actually are responsible for winning the Medal of Honor. Over 20% of them have actually received the Medal of Honor, and they're immigrants, right? So that's a great point, Joe, that we're highlighting here. This isn't a left or right issue, ladies and gentlemen. This is an American issue here, and we're talking about a military family. I'm going to see if we can get Demo back, see if we can hear us.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfect, loud and clear. All right, let's go. So, brother, I want to move this forward, the conversation. What has Estela's efforts mean to you, right? Being someone from the youth, like how has she impacted you and influenced you? Because I can imagine you must be very proud, right? Even though what you guys are going through, I think you must be proud of your leadership and what you're doing for the family.
Yes, obviously, it's gonna keep the family together, which is the most important thing. So that way they're stronger mentally, which is very important for me. And that's the effect that she has to work harder to make sure they're okay, and kind of teach them to be mentally tough, obviously. Um, and the resilience that she has a certain level of skill, the charisma that people have. So that's why she was able to have this much success with local politicians and Congressman Soto, and we reach out to the Republican politicians too on the side, and some of them reach out to us, but some of them they kind of stay away from it. But obviously, the level of communication and the charisma she has that touches people to help us out, like you guys, give us a time, and that's the most the thing that I get from her, that she's smart, that she has the level of communication to express herself in a way that people understand.
Well said. You couldn't have said it any better. And her and I were actually talking about this a little bit before, and when we were leading up to this discussion, when I was asking her what was she involved in, and she's like debate, and I was like, oh, I am not surprised you're on the debate team, and you're gonna excel being on that debate team because that says a lot about you
Thank you.
to do that. So Estela, let's move forward a little bit. So as you're going through this process, you're seeing your family go through these challenges. How and why did you decide to write a book? I'm curious.
Well, my biggest hope for my book, that's why the title is called Until Someone Listens, is that any legislator or really anybody could read it and help us find an immigration reform or a permanent solution for my mother. Because, like you said, this isn't a left or right issue; it's an American issue, and I think it's important that politicians know that this is affecting American citizens too.
Okay. So when you wrote the book, let's walk through that process a little bit. Was it something that you were just journaling every day when the immigration officer knocked your mom's door and you were just like journaling? Do you have like a diary, and then after that you just compiled it together, and then that's how you started, putting the book together, or like what was your process like?
Well, when my mom got deported and I joined her in Mexico, I was so full of emotion that I just decided that I was going to pour my heart out into my diary. And then later, after I was featured on the National Democratic Convention, I was reached out by a literary agent, and then my book was auctioned to different publishing companies, and that's how my book was published.
I love it. I like I said, I think the power in the book, and I tell this to a lot of veterans, and Demo, I hope you write a book. You better write a book because I'm gonna hold you accountable, Devil Dog. I think it's very important that we tell our stories, Estela, because you're telling, and as Joe mentioned, you're not only telling your story, you're telling millions and millions of people's stories, and not just military children, but children that have come here. Right. Some of them feel like they're in the dark. Some of them feel like they don't have a voice. Some of them feel like they're hopeless. Right. But when someone like yourself, as your father said, you're a great communicator. When you're able to inspire not just your peers, but you're inspiring us today with your presence here. And that says a lot about you. And that is something that we here in the Veterans Club are going to continue to amplify by giving people a voice. So let's talk a bit about the book now. I want to get into the book. So the book is called Until Someone Listens.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a journey of your experiences and what you're going through. What are some of the important aspects of the book that you want people to understand?
Well, like I said, I want them to understand that my story isn't just one story. It's the story of multiple children and their experiences. And also, I really try to capture the emotion in the book, like in the pages where they show the immigration officer coming to my house and how emotional that was for me as a child. I really wanted them to know how hurt I was in that situation. So, like I said, legislators could feel empathy and help us find a permanent solution.
Well said. And Demo, did she spend a little time with you? Did you give her kind of a little bit of a wisdom with your experiences when she was writing this book?
Your personal experience, which is what people are going to listen to, but it was very little advice on the book.
Okay, so it was all her. So it was just you just gave her the instruction, the plan of the day, and she went and executed. Is that what I'm hearing?
Pretty much, yes.
All right, well said. All right, let's bring up Lakeisha. Lakeisha, any questions or comments on the book or this young leader's experiences?
Absolutely, Jeffrey. This is my heart. Honestly, Estela, you have to understand being an author is truly a genius move. You're able to get your manuscript out to the world and for someone to hear your voice. And I love how the title of your book, If Someone Listens, because you've been crying out and wanting to express yourself, and you did it in a documentary, in a book, and talking to someone. My thing for you and my question for you is, what did you want to share, and how are you been sharing it within your book as far as mental health? Because that's real. Understanding the illnesses that goes through. PTSD is real. A lot of us in the military experience that. But how are you able to gravitate towards that in your book and share it to the world to understand that we need to keep speaking? We need to have a voice to be heard.
Well, I believe that, in situations like deportation, mental health is underestimated a lot, and people don't want to realize the mental impact that deportation can have on families. So what I really wanted to capture in the book, like I said, was how hurt me and my family were when that situation happened, and I wanted other people to know that they weren't alone in the situation, and it was okay to feel that way.
Yes, it is okay to feel that way. It is something that be able to share that, hey, we feel this way. We're crying out. We need to be heard. So I really appreciate you so much.
Thank
Great,
you.
great question. Thank you. Thank you.
So, thank you, Lakeisha. And Estela, from your parents' perspective, I can imagine the struggle and the challenges that you might have been feeling through at the time. Were there any other folks from your high school or anyone else that reached out to you that knew your story?
Well, I would like to say, like from a lot of my schools, that the staff, like the principals and the teachers, eventually found out about my book and they wanted to kind of let other students know. But one thing I really want my generation to focus on is immersing yourself in your community and immersing yourself in politics. Because I feel like whenever I speak on my situation, it's really rare that a child my age will know what deportation means or what undocumented means. So I really want, my generation and community to learn more about that.
And you're doing it. I'll tell you what, and we're going to continue to get the word out. We're going to continue to spread that out to military families. I think what you're doing is inspiring. But what we need to do is get people to understand that this is a problem and you guys are getting caught up in a broken process that unfortunately a lot of us get caught up in. I remember one time when I was during the pandemic, I had someone had taken my social security number, and I had just gotten divorced. And I was like, well, that divorce was clean. It was, and somebody had, and so what happens sometimes you get what's called garnished wages. That's usually associated with divorce. And I was like, well, we were good. We good to go. We're split up. But somebody somehow got my social security, got a hold of my social security number, and what am I going to do? I'm like, well, I was just apparently some person was an employee or trying to be an employee of the organization that I was with at the time. Turns out it was false. And I ended up advocating for myself. And I spent like 7 months, right, all the way to the CEO. I got a hold of like the attorneys because no one wanted to help me. And I was like, well, this, it's a clean case. Like I have a case here. Like this, somebody just took my social security number. And what I learned a lot about that process is we have to be our own advocates a lot of times because people are not going to advocate for us. And so what you're doing here is you're advocating until someone listens and the result that you want is going to happen, right? Because your story and what you're doing, I'm sure there's tons of other families, especially military families, that are probably in that same situation. And many of them have not spoken out. So we need to continue to be our own advocates here. And that's something that Joe always talks about. So I want to hand the floor over to Joe a little bit.
I just think that as veteran, at least in the veteran community, like we tend to be conditioned to not advocate for ourselves, right? Like it's mission first, complete the mission, and then they actually condition us not to do our own thing because they have us on lists, dental, shots, all that. So we always forget all those things. So it really does depend on how we advocate for ourselves. And not only that, like if we find the right community, because I want to go back to what you answered earlier when I asked you your question, what kind of gave you that thing to keep moving. And you said, well, I had all these people that would support me. Could you also share a little bit about the importance of that community that helped you advocate for yourself? Like that community that said, you got to talk about this. Like, what was that like? Yeah, no, I just like to hear a little bit more about these people that were like supportive of you. So, because I really do think that that's important for us. It's our village, right? You're muted too, Estela. You did the same thing I did.
Oh, sorry. But I would say that the situation that I am right now and what I've achieved with using my voice is definitely a group effort. And if it wasn't for the support of everybody encouraging me and telling me that you aren't alone and you need to keep advocating for these children, for these other families, I wouldn't have had what it took to keep going. So I'm definitely extremely grateful for the administrations that helped me and for everybody that helped me. And I just want to let them know that I'm going to continue my fight for change.
So you're on the debate team, and this kind of just transitioned me into a thing that I was thinking of earlier, and I think I wrote it in our back chat. Was have you like started to look into, because I don't think we ever hear from people that are going through this in their life. This story is never really told. It's from a high level, and it's always this other thing. So just from your experience and just as gone through this, have you researched or looked into ways to help other families prevent this? In other words, what are some of the things that we can do to help families that haven't gotten to this point, can be proactive? What steps are there, if there are any, and what you think we can do to help families that might have gotten here, are undocumented, but aren't at a risk of deportation yet? What can they do, or what can we do to help?
Well, like I said, I think it's very important to immerse yourself in politics so you can educate yourselves about these situations. And another thing I think is very important is research who you're voting and vote. Voting, I will always believe, is very important and very crucial to a country. And I know a lot of people these days, they don't want to vote, they don't want to immerse themselves in politics. And also another thing, I know that what helped me a lot were my teachers. They listened to me when I was struggling in class or when I had hard times. And I actually did a couple school visits where I met more children in my situations, and I read my book out to the school. And
Mhm.
the teachers there know their students' circumstances, and they help them and they help their families in any way they can.
Thank you.
Powerful stuff here. Powerful stuff, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not listening, you're gonna want to listen. And if your kids are not around or they are around as a parent, bring them on and listen to this, and please share it, because this is a once in a lifetime story here. And what I mean by once in a lifetime, meaning a once in a lifetime opportunity to change, as Estela just mentioned here. We can advocate for change, and let's make change happen. So Stella, I do want to also share some of the challenges that you went through. Um, what were some of those challenges? I know you mentioned the book that your family, which is really important when it comes to milestones, right, such as birthdays, and um, can you share a little bit about some of those challenges that, because of this military family separation that is happening and has happened, um, what were some of those challenges?
Well, I would say, of course, this whole situation has affected the whole family's mental health, and we're still healing as we're going through this process of trying to prevent my mom's deportation again. But another thing that was really challenging for me was going to school every day and seeing everybody, with like not having really to worry about such a significant matter and being regular children and not really having to worry about, oh, what country am I going to be in next year? Or what's going to happen to my family? So for me, really, I kind of wanted to feel more involved. And I really wish I had somebody at the time that was going through the same thing that was around my age, so I could just share my worries with them. So I think the biggest thing in this whole situation, of course, is how it impacted the mental health.
And I'm sorry to hear that. I can imagine, at least from a perspective of a veteran, many times we're on deployment, and we miss a lot of our military families, or even just families. If you don't have a military family, or just your regular family, right there, they have birthdays or deaths, and that was really hard. One time when I was the third out of four times that I was in Afghanistan, I was there. The third time, my sister, who's a teacher, she was actually diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was in 2013 when I heard about it, and I was in Afghanistan. And when something like that happens, immediately what comes to mind is, how do I get back? How do I go and support them? How do I give her a call? Um, and that was really hard for me to go through, because the whole point of when you're on deployment or on assignment, your whole point is just to focus on that and not think about family, because you don't want to get the emotions into it. And I can imagine what Mo or yourself are going through with Mo. Maybe something similar for you is, you got this mission, you got this big task here, and you want to just keep the team, keep the family, keep them intact, right? And you're probably trying to do everything you can here. So I'd like to know more about your current process, man, and how are you coping with this, right? I think this is tough, right? Because the mother of your children, is on the verge. And by the way, if you guys don't know, that expiration date is next month, 5 May, right? And Estela, my understanding, is going to turn 16,
15.
15. So she's going to have a quinceañera. And that's a big milestone for someone in that family. And the fact that someone's going to miss that or potentially miss that, it's heartbreaking, right? So I want to get Demo's perspective on how are you fighting, keeping this fight, keeping calm and cool, because it sounds like you're very calm and cool and collected here. And so I just want to get your thoughts on that. Can't hear you, brother. All right, give me one sec. We'll stand by. We'll come back to you. Let's continue this conversation on mental health. Lakeisha, any thoughts?
Absolutely. When it comes to, the different challenges that we may deal with, in life, and we can't ignore it. It's happening. Unfortunately, we have to deal with it. And sometimes it's a bad process. It may be a good process. I would like to know from you, Estela, how were you able to cope and deal with what you're doing, being the leader that you are? You're out there being a warrior for your mom and for your dad. From your perspective as a military child, how were you able to build and cope and build community for others to be able to support you?
Well, writing was a big thing that helped me. Like I said, I was so full of emotion and resentment when my mom got deported. So instead of, putting it towards other things that could potentially harm myself, I started writing. And I believe that writing kept me going. And again, really directing all of my energy towards using my voice to help other families. And for anybody that's going through a similar situation, use your voice and reach out to people because I promise you somebody will listen just like they listen to me.
Wow. Thank you so much. They're out there. I'm so thankful that you said that because so many people definitely need collaborations to understand that same thing that you just said. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
So, Estela, let's actually dive in a little more on the community aspect. Have you created some type of peer group or of children that have gone through some sort of situations? Is there a group that you have that you're a part of?
Well, when my mom has a vlog actually, where a bunch of people with similar situations and other children have reached out to us for help, which of course we will help them in any way that we can. But also, I think I have my email, my publisher's email, and my book website for anybody that wants to reach out to me and just speak a little bit and relate to me on some level, or for any advice on how you could use your voice. I'm here.
And we appreciate that. And by the way, for those of you who aren't paying attention, there is a little her website is down. There's a little scroll button that we got here. And so you guys can reach her there. You can also purchase her book, Until Someone Listens. And by the way, she's coming out with the second one, which I'm not going to tell you guys yet. Just give you guys a little teaser, but it's going to be more powerful, and it's going to be on this next phase that they're battling through. So Stella, I do want to get to more on the youth part and community part, but before we do that, it's my understanding, as we've mentioned, your mom, her expiration for her current stay, it expires next month, right? What would you want to say to folks that are listening today to get involved, and how can we get involved, and who do we need to talk to?
Well, write letters to your legislators. Call your legislative office. Call your congressman. Let them know there's Protect Patriot Spouses, a bill out there that can help us keep my mother here. And actually, the other day, my mom went to the immigration's office to ask for an extension, at least until my birthday, which is June 16th, and she was denied. So again, that just goes to show that despite everything my family has contributed to this country, it really didn't matter.
But it will once I get a hold of some right folks to
That's
make
my goal.
that happen. Yeah, we're going to make it happen. It's just I think I want to know from your perspective, and how much has your faith helped you to keep imagining that? I know your mom's there right next to you, but I'm sure you guys have had to have some type of faith to keep yourselves grounded, right? And hopefully we can bring up Demo a little bit to understand that, because I can imagine that. I just can't imagine something like that happening, right? I mean, I've myself, my father, my late father, was a bracero. He's from Mexico, and when he came to the States, we lived in Fresno, California, which is all farms and country. And of course, you guys know the story of Cesar Chavez. There was a lot of movements in that area. So, but I can imagine seeing the other families, the immigrant families, and some of the struggles they went through, and being in the shadows and scared, and it frustrates you. It makes you mad that they're caught up in this process, that they're coming here for a better life. There's a movie, by the way, called A Better Life, which really tells the story similar to what Estela's talking about. And you get frustrated because you feel like the system is not being fixed, even though we're advocating for that, right? And so I think, to me, that is something that we as Americans here, everybody that's listening, need to have a conversation about. This isn't the left or right issue. This is a broken promise by that now it's impacting military families that are serving our country, are paying their taxes, own businesses, give back to their community. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not something that we need to stand by on. We need to get active, and our youth here are demonstrating it. So what do you plan for this last month here? Let's just hypothetically say that what are you gonna be doing with your mom this last month?
Well, I'm trying to spend as much time with her as possible, of course, before she has to go back. But really, I'm focusing a lot on my education right now to make sure that I can get into a good college and then eventually continue my career as an activist, as an author, and as a lawyer, hopefully. And eventually maybe make my way into a political position where I can ensure that the immigration laws are changed. But really, right now, we're just hoping and praying that a miracle happens and she can stay.
God willing, it will happen. I think that's very powerful. So you want to be a lawyer. That's
Mhm.
awesome. And you want to help fellow folks especially that are going through these cases. Why do you want to be a lawyer?
Well, I want to be an immigration lawyer to do pro bono cases and help families that can afford a lawyer to help them. And I know that right now, as a child, I'm doing everything I can, but there's only so much I can do until I eventually reach a position where I'm stuck and I can't do anything anymore legally. So I think that it's very important for me to move forward with what I want to do right now as I get older, so I can continue to help families.
And it's also my understanding, after you achieve that, because you're going to achieve that, I know you are. You want to become a senator. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's fantastic, ladies and gentlemen. If you got your youth, please have them tune into this conversation. This is powerful here. So I want to talk about the youth, Estela. I also have I'm a godparent, right? I have my nephews and nieces. One of the things we talk a lot, especially here in the Veterans Club, is how do we impact the youth, you guys, the future of our country, which you are. And some of the challenges that we run into is we have these generational misunderstandings, right? Like, we want to go out for a run and someone else wants to just get home and be on TikTok all day. And I'm like, we don't need to be on TikTok all day. Let's just go for a run. Let's go do things. Let's go enjoy nature, right? But you're so mature and you've had to mature at such a young age because of what your family's going through. How have you been able to influence your peers to get not only involved, as you mentioned earlier, but how do you want to influence them to grow and understand that they're the future of this country? Like what are some of the goals you think that your youth of today can learn from somebody like you?
Well, I really hope that they can use their voice like I did. And, if you truly believe that there's an injustice, you can use your voice to fix it. And I try to educate my friends on certain topics. I tell them about my story, and eventually, after I speak about it enough, they do begin to understand, and they begin to, learn, educate themselves more about politics and stuff of that sort. But I really believe that of course, I'm a teenager. I understand that, you want to go and have fun, but we are the future and we're going to be impacted by the laws that senators and legislators are making right now if we don't make a change.
You couldn't have said it any better. Like I think politics and the laws that we're seeing here, and as veterans, we have a lot of what's called the hidden scuttlebutt. Something we'll share with you when you're a lawyer, and on some of the challenges that we go through here. Lakeisha, powerful conversation here.
Absolutely. This is truly a powerful conversation. Estela, I have a question for you. Just you being the woman that you are, because you are a beautiful woman, beautiful queen, just understanding your journey and understanding that you want to get out to the world and know that they have a voice as well, too. My question for you, just in your generation, which is a beautiful generation, what do you want to share to women that are just like you? What do you want to impact to them? And what do you want to let them know what they should do?
I love this question. I want to encourage, young girls my age, because women are the future of the world now. We're using our voices, we're speaking out, we're making differences. And like I said, nothing good comes from staying silent. So I firmly believe that we can use our voice to make a change. And don't listen to your peers that tell you otherwise. And don't listen to all of those discouraging quotes. And if you have faith in yourself, you can accomplish anything.
Very powerful. Very powerful. They're listening right now. They are. I appreciate you.
Amen. Yes, sir. And we're gonna bring back Demo here since we're talking about parents, and I want to have Joe here as well. Um, Demo, can you hear us? Demo Charlie. Okay, you can hear me, but I can't hear you. So, Joe, any thoughts on this topic?
I think there's a mic drop right there. Nothing good comes from being silent. That's amazing, because that is one of our focuses here, is to share people's voices. Absolutely brilliant quote. I'm going to use that if you don't mind, Estrella, and I will.
Of course, it's okay.
I love it. Like, it is so true. I think we really need to hear from young people way more. And I actually, we say that all the time. I think we need to hear from all of our groups more. But it's especially good to hear from young people that speak up and that share their ideas and their thoughts, because we want to hear that. I think the more we hear that, the more we have confidence in the future and stuff like that. So thank you so much for sharing your story.
Of course, thank you.
And Joe, I will say, Joe, I think it'd be important for when you do take that quote, make sure you pay it forward and buy a few books from Estela and share with your family and your community, because those are some books.
Absolutely.
I think I'm gonna make sure I share it with folks, and I want to get her book out, man. But you're a parent, Joe, right? And I know you have conversations every day with your kids and your leadership skills, because just like them all here, there's an impact, there's an influence here. How would you relate to your children, especially to seeing someone like Estela and say, you know what, my kids can do the same thing as well, and they can learn from somebody like Estela, because we talk about collaboration all the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and also I think a bravo Zulu to her parents, because I think one of the things that it shows is that the focus on helping others, and regardless, just to help others in whatever way we can, and how that actually comes back around. So, and that'll help us, like it helps yourself by helping others. So I think that she's on the right track, and that's how I kind of like equate it to my kids. Like, you got to go out and when you focus on solving problems for other people, it helps you in the long run. So again, that's how I would probably frame that discussion. And that's what I try to do too, is just, it just goes back to our golden rule, right? Love others as we love ourselves. That's one of the biggest things I think we should do. So.
Yeah, and what she's doing here, it's a form of love, right? Now she's taken on this Herculean task, right? Fighting Goliaths who are not paying attention, and now she's packaged it up, and she's now going into the world and saying, like, this is what we're going through. as a military family. We
I
don't
don't
separate.
want to hog.
We
I
don't.
don't want to
we
hog the
don't-
mic. But what I like about this is the way you do. This is how you expand a vibration. Because I think we all have some of similar problems. People all have some of the same thing. And Estrella is focusing on her circle and then expanding it. So this was a thing that she recognized with her own family, but then recognized that it's actually a bigger problem. So you start small and that's how we tackle huge problems, little bits at a time. And again, I just think it is a testament to the young people of today to see someone like Estrella going out there and doing these kind of things. So thank you again.
Well said, brother. And Lakeisha, any final comments, questions before we get ready to close down?
Absolutely. So I have a final comment and a question. So the comment is, I want you to know just how amazing you writing your book means. So when you transition and when you leave, this book is leaving a mark in your legacy. So somebody else is going to be able to read it and glean from the encouragement and get clarity on what they need to do to persevere to do the same work that you're doing right now. So that's such a powerful mission and such a powerful standpoint. That's part of your legacy. So kudos to you. My question is, are you ready for this? Because I need to know how powerful writing this book means to each and every person, for us and all those that are going to read it. What do you want to share with all of us? And what do you want us to glean from just in writing this book? And what do you want the lessons you want us to hear?
Well, my biggest thing is don't stay silent, guys. If you truly believe in something, use your voice. And the work you guys are doing right now with this podcast, it's changing the world. And I'm so proud to be a part of this project.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Joe,
Thank you so much.
any final questions or comments? You sure?
Yeah, I finished mine earlier. I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to save for the after show. So, Estela, real quick, we're going to see if we can get Dad on again. Demo, can you hear us? Can you? Yeah, but we can't hear you, unfortunately. All right. So, we're going to get you back to the app for the after show. Estela, any final words, comments for the people that are listening today? What do you want to leave us with?
What I want to leave you guys with is, if you guys feel like you're alone, read Until Someone Listens. It's available in Spanish and English for any of your family members that don't speak English. They're also available.
Wait, I can't see it. You gotta put it in the camera. Let me see it. Put it in the camera. Put it closer. I got 20/20 vision, but you're hurting my vision here. There we go. Perfect. There we go. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's what I want to leave you guys with. If you guys have any questions or want to learn more about how you can use your voice, you can go to my website, or you can buy Until Someone Listens, available in Spanish and English.
Available in Spanish and English. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Estela Juarez. Some of you will get a chance, if you're going to meet us at the after show, you'll get a chance to talk to her, potentially Mom, and Temo whenever he gets out of his basement, aka container, because he's probably having some comms issues there. And just, I'm very inspired by you, Estela.
Thank you so much.
My family has inspired you. The veterans are here, inspired you. We support you, and we are going to find a way to solve this problem. I want you to continue living, walking by faith, because that is what is going to get you through. And I want to thank you for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the month of the military child. This is how we kick it off. If you want to get involved, please contact who? Stella?
Me and Dad on my website.
On her website.
On my website, or contact legislators and your congressman, because you can use your voice.
Well said. Thank you, Miss. And when we look, and we're gonna have her back. So just wait. We got some youth programs that we are going to be working on, and Estela is going to be at the forefront of that. So Estela, thank you again for joining us here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it. That is Estela Juarez and Temo on today's show called Until Someone Listens. If you're out there listening, if you're watching, if you're feeling inspired, please join us for the after show. And again, her website is right here at the bottom, where you can purchase a copy for yourself, for your kids, for your school, and go up there and have a conversation with them. Talk to them. Tell them what's going on. This isn't a left or right problem. This is an American problem. We're talking about a military family. We have this quote, and we talk about a lot as veterans, leave no veteran behind. Well, we're going to add to that today. We're going to say leave no military family behind. Leave no military veteran family behind. We need to prioritize our military families. We need to prioritize our veterans. We can fix this, ladies and gentlemen. There's no way that we cannot fix this. It's a broken process, and now it's impacting military families. Now, if you want to be a guest, if you want to be a guest co-host, if you want to support the Veterans Club, you can come on and do so by scanning this QR code so you can learn how to be a guest. Or if you want to support us in our efforts in what we're doing to end veteran homelessness, to end veteran suicide, to help veteran families, scan that QR code. Let's have a conversation. Let's collaborate, as Joe mentions. Let's focus on mental health, as Lakeisha mentions here. And let's focus on helping the military child who you just witnessed today, who gave her testimony, Estela Juarez, and her father, a fellow Marine who served his country, lives in Florida, and just wants his family to be together because he cares about the mission. The mission of their family is to stay intact, remain intact, and leave no military family behind. We look forward to hearing from some of you guys at the after show, and we're going to continue the conversation there where you can meet Estela and the Veterans Club crew here. Veterans Club signing out. Have a great weekend. God bless you all.